Good evening, this is your night before news video for your further maths exam tomorrow morning. You have your paper 1 further maths exam tomorrow morning, which is non-calculator, and hopefully this video will just give you some real last minute tips of what you should be doing this evening to prepare for that. I think mainly what you want to know is probably what's going to be in the exam, so it's important to note, as just with your maths GCSE, anything across the further maths scheme of work can come up in either of the two papers. We do have the benefit of knowing that paper 1 is non-calculator though, so there are a few topics that really are more likely to come up or make more sense, I should say, coming up in a non-calculator paper. So things that like surds or evaluating or dealing with index rules like negative and fractional indices, or things like exact trig values. So maybe some further trigonometry which require you to utilise those exact trig values. I thought it would be easier to think about listing out the further maths only content that might be coming up tomorrow, and then sort of maybe some typical non-calculator, higher level maths content. So from the further maths only content, we've got things like a factor theorem and division of polynomials. These quite often come up together, so it might say using the factor theorem you need to show that a specific linear expression is a factor of a polynomial, and then in part B it might ask you to then fully factorise that expression, so for example a cubic. So you would then have to do your long algebraic division, leaving you with your linear expression and your quadratic expression, which you could then factorise your quadratic expression. Set notation, so although we do use set notation in Venn diagrams in GCSE maths and sometimes in inequalities, you will have seen throughout our further maths lessons that there's just a bit more of it that you need to be aware of. So that's potentially they could be using that inside of a Venn diagram question or an inequalities question. So you want to make sure you're really clear on how to use that and what everything means. The discriminant. So quite often, if this is going to come up, it will be indicating that there is potentially going to be two solutions to some sort of equation. One solution, so like a repeated equal root, or no real solutions. Sometimes these are really plain and straightforward, and sometimes it might be in a bigger question. So it could be part of a simultaneous equation, so maybe the intersection of a curve and a straight line, and it tells you that it's a tangent. So therefore you would know there'd only be one solution to that simultaneous equation, in which case you could form your simultaneous equation and then use the discriminant correctly. Or it might tell you that a straight line doesn't intersect a curve, so you would form your simultaneous equation and then show that it doesn't have any real solutions by using the discriminant. And then equation of a circle. So we know that in further maths we should be able to use and understand the general equation of a circle, so including circles that are not centred at the origin. So it could be that something about that comes up, or it might involve the equation of a tangent to a circle, which, you know, is a little bit just normal GCSE as well, but including when you've got the circle not centred at the origin. Some higher maths GCSE only content then, so things that are crossing over with just your normal GCSE maths, but can be made quite difficult, so they can like really ramp up the algebra or just the difficulty of what you already see. So things like cubic graphs, so you know it could be sketching cubics, could be just be interpreting cubics, and really that should say sort of any further graphs, maybe like an exponential graph or reciprocal graph, but you could just be sketching it, or you might be trying to interpret it a little bit. Inequalities, so solving linears, solving quadratic inequalities, quantities on number lines, but including those graphical inequalities, where you might have to shade a region or identify the inequalities being represented by a shaded region. Vectors, potentially geometric, but you know, column vectors as well. Trigonometry, exact trig values. It is a non-calculator paper, so if trigonometry does come up, it will mean that you need to use exact trig values. Surd, so expect if you see it, like a a more challenging SERDS question, something with like a difficult one to rationalise, or it might be a big calculation that has SERDS in it that you need to simplify. Indices, so they will expect you to be really familiar with all of your index rules, so negative indices, fractional indices, raising a power to a power, all of that stuff, and they could create a difficult question involving indices. And then maybe some proof. We've done some proof this year in year 11, and again that can involve quite a lot of algebra and manipulation of expressions, so a difficult skill that they might incorporate into a further maths exam. Obviously I'm just trying to pick out some of the topics that I think would be key topics. Anything across your GCSE maths curriculum could appear in your further maths paper as well. So what should you do this evening? Well, the best thing you want to do is maybe pick a topic that you know that you don't remember as well from further maths this year, and focus on trying to upskill yourself on that. So perhaps one of the ones that I've mentioned, you can go on Arbor, and if you go backwards through all of your old assignments, I put those further maths lessons on there each week. You should still be able to access all of those PowerPoints and exam questions. Specific topics then, again, you've got Arbor, but you've also got Sparks Maths. So on Sparks Maths, if you go to Independent Learning and make sure you're selected Further Maths, you can then just search for some topics. Corbett Maths, if you just give that a Google, you will find if you go to More and then select Further Maths, like an alphabetised list of topics. Because this is not quite for our exam board, there is some stuff in there that we don't do, but you know that you won't recognise that. So look for the stuff that you know we do. So product rule for counting, SERDS, factor theorem, division of polynomials, anything like that. And it will all be on there. There's helpful videos, there's practice exam questions, and there's also answers, and they are worked solutions as well. So it's not just a mark scheme you're trying to blindly follow, but full, thorough work solutions. And that's it. Good luck. Feel free to come in early in the morning, come in with some questions that you might have found for revision this evening that you really want some help on, and myself and Mrs. Venters will be there to give you that support. Okay, good luck, and I'll see you in the morning.